Welcome to Get Off Zero. Today we've got a very special guest and an old friend who we've known each other for a number of years now and
Yes,
had some really interesting chats back and forth.
yes,
But I
we
think
have.
we met at a Bets conference in Malaysia, I believe it was. I
Yes,
think maybe 2018, 2019, something like that.
yes.
And yeah, Michael's been doing some really cool, innovative stuff in Vietnam with this new school that he's been building. Um, and yeah, very awesome STEM from K through to 12, which I wish
Yes,
we had that in Australia because that is so, or STEAM, should I say? Sorry, we got to put the
yes,
A in
Steam.
there.
Yes, we go by Steam.
There's some students I know that would kill me for leaving out the A there, so they're very important. The arts. But yeah,
Mhm.
Michael, did you want to tell us a bit about yourself and your school? Because it's very
Sure.
interesting.
All right. Personally, I've lived overseas. I've been in international schools here in Asia for 35 plus years. Working in Hong Kong with the Hong Kong International School, Concordia, Shanghai, and even worked in Saudi Arabia for a few years. And at the moment, I'm here in Hanoi, building a school. As you know, most schools are often you enter, and then there's the status quo that you're trying to navigate and twist and turn and maybe make changes. Well, this is an opportunity to start off at a school where we are starting from the foundation. And we are trying not to be what I call a copy paste kind of school. We want to try to be something different. And many parents, they can go a little bit of difference with you. So we try to use what we call the 80-20 model.
Hmm.
In other words, we try to keep 80% of what we know works and what parents feel comfortable with. And then we try to look at the other 20%, and then we try to make some changes with that. And then eventually that 20 becomes part of the 80. And then we take out another 20, and then we're modifying and having some evolution kind of experiences, and even trying to do a little bit of revolution. At the moment, I would say some of the things that we are implementing that might be a little bit somewhat different is we have an entrepreneur class. We have our students doing entrepreneur work. In fact, this weekend, they made around 5 million dong, which is equivalent to about 200 USD. So they're a millionaire in one sense of the word.
Very cool. Very cool.
And we're trying to get other students on board with that. We have guest speaker for the class. So we're moving toward what we call financial literacy. And that is a big component for our school, that we want to have children understand, the purpose of money and how it works. And then, that it doesn't just come straight out of the ATM machine, or that parents just have it to give to them. The other thing that we're trying to also do is teach students how to be not only an entrepreneur, but a freelancer. As we know in today's world, many of the jobs you're on a contract basis. And so you have to be able to market yourself. So we're teaching students how to market themselves, how to use their social platforms in more of a business opportunity, as well as trying to help them build what uh, we also do is build their e-portfolio. With our high school students, we're working with them to try to go ahead and get on LinkedIn now, so that
Hmm.
whenever they get ready to do some kind of internship program, which we also have as an internship program for grades 10 through 12. In grade 10, it's a couple of weeks. In grade 11, we hope to have something that's a little more solid, that's more like a 4-week program. And then for our seniors, usually seniors know their college, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, by January. And so then therefore we would like to have a stronger internship program that would last a little bit longer. In addition to that, we have debate clubs and badminton clubs, just like any other school that would have after school activities. Another thing that it's somewhat debatable is about community service. Should it be required, or should it be something that really comes from the heart? We're starting out with it's a requirement, and then hopefully we will inspire our students to make that sure that transitions to coming from the heart. In addition to that, we don't necessarily call ourselves teachers. We try to call ourselves mentors.
Love it.
So with all our students, we have a mentorship program with not only one teacher, but maybe with 2 or 3 teachers. And it's not just the teachers, it's with our staff. So our staff get involved with the kids, and then they monitor the students and they do follow up. So it's more of a community kind of approach. This weekend, we also do what we call leadership camps. This weekend, we have what we call a 36-hour grit camp. In other words, students go out, they live in a tent, and they really learn the words perseverance. They learn about collaboration. So our school, what we're trying to design is the content to be more of a simulation and more about an experience rather than just going through the content. Content, of course, is important. Students need to have a foundation. But I think sometimes where we get lost is that we don't take that to an experience. I'll give one example for that. One example is we talk about the Great Depression during the US history time and even during the world, back in the 20s and in the 30s. So what we try to do is that we not only read about that and understand it, but then we go through the experience of that. So for example, we'll say to students, and we have a contract with parents, okay, they have to do their homework in a candlelight. They have to
Oh,
do
wow.
no
Love it.
laptop, everything is handwritten. They have to wash their own clothes. They take a cold shower. When they come to school, they have to, we gave them a plan to say, okay, you only have like a 100,000 dong, and you have to use that each day. So in other words, it's like $1 a day or $2 a day they get to spend. And then they have to map out their meal plan and have to
Wow.
stay within a certain budget. And it just carries the whole experience to another kind of level. And then they understand the meaning of hardship. Their idea of hardship is no Wi-Fi or the batteries low. And but so we're trying to take that to a deeper dive. I'll
That's
stop.
awesome. That's
Uh,
immersive learning completely.
yes.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And then we have other kind of online kind of games. There's one game that people may be of interest. It's called Play Diplomacy. Play Diplomacy is another great game that sort of teaches about World War II and World War One. And then the students are into groups and they're trying to have to attack. And then they're learning about diplomacy and they're learning about how people can somewhat, quote, stab them in the back and not really mean what they say. And they thoroughly enjoy these kind of games. The other thing that we're trying to also do that we haven't started yet, but we keep nudging is esports. And
Yes.
I know some people have a really hard time with that, but at our school, we're trying to nudge that a bit because we're trying to help parents understand first. I think that's our first step.
Mm-hmm.
And within esports, there's a whole mechanism, like how do you keep the audience entertained, or how do you keep the player engaged and keep moving forward? What about the graphics designs? What about the color? What about the music? What about the story? What about the character?
Mm-hmm.
What about the algorithms that all are involved? There's so many
Commentary is a big
layers.
aspect of that as well.
Yes, yes. And then how do you sell your game? How do you get people onto your app? So we've been doing some work in coding and working with I think it's one's called Game Maker. Game Maker is one, I think. And then of course, there's Blocky and a few others that people are also using. We're looking at Unity, but that's more of a platform for students.
Yeah, very
Uh,
cool.
let's see what else that we're trying to do that's a little bit differently. I think one of the things that it's been a lot of what I call parent education. That's one thing that we're really trying to work on because we want to get into more big data. We're trying to also tell students in our language arts classes that it's not always about that darn 5-paragraph essay. The 5-paragraph essay, it's dead, Curran.
Yes.
It's dead. And the new thing is teaching students how to visualize, how to create an infographic. Even in our resumes today, as we teach in our financial literacy, we're teaching students it's not about the bullet points, it's about how can you display all this wealth of information and put it into some kind of visual format. So we're teaching students to think visually and then also how to create and construct visually. Media literacy is also a big piece of ours. We have students working on different kind of media pieces, and in fact, we're going to have what we call a Hanoi Film Festival. I did that actually in Shanghai for about 12 years, and we would have over 300 films that we would look at. But it's moving the student from a consumer, as we've heard before, to a creator. And then we're also looking into, the whole thing with blockchain and algorithms and cryptocurrency, and just trying to expose students to those kind of formats and what that is. So it's that whole fintech kind of component. And we're not there yet, but there's a lot of programs that are out there. But we have business electives, and then we also have these other pieces that I just mentioned.
That's so much to unpack.
I get a little passionate there. Sorry about that.
No, I love it. I love it. It's so cool. So many.
Don't interrupt me anytime.
I think we can go in 1,000 directions there, but I wanted to get into the let's talk about the esports after the financial literacy component, because I think that's really important. So the financial literacy program you have at the moment, if we could unpack that a little bit, but there's a number of things that you might have seen in the news or maybe not. One of the big ones that's excited me, and I was talking to Jan about this in the last episode, Jan Owen, and actually Sagata Mitra the other night. So I actually got to finally after like 20 years of following him, I got to say hi on a Zoom.
Yes.
It was awesome. It was really, really cool. And yeah, Peter Hutton actually put that together, so it was very, very, very nice. But basically, there's a program going on in Central Africa at the moment, and I just wanted to know if he was aware of it or not, because it's so cool, and it mimics like the school in the cloud, hole in the wall. Like it's very, very similar, and it's using Bitcoin specifically. So these guys have gone in and created a circular economy, paying students, so young students between 10 and 12 years old, with BTC. So they're just giving them money. So akin to your program where you're giving the students money to start a business, but they're giving them money just to live. So they're saying, all right, you can have X amount of BTC and you can use this with all these vendors that we've set up so that they can accept BTC. Actually, with software developed in Australia called the Wallet of Satoshi. So on the Lightning Network, these kids are going out, and the guys who set it up just kind of stood back and said, look, we're going to see what happens. Just don't guide them. We're just going to see how they learn.
Awesome.
Yeah. So here's the results out of that. And it's so exciting. So basically, first couple of weeks, kids went and bought lollies and ice creams and nonsense, as you would imagine. And they almost stepped in, from what I was reading about. And they said, no, we'll hold off. Just let them keep going and see what happens. So a month goes by, and then they start getting healthy food for their family all of a sudden. A little bit more goes by. And then the kids on their own figured out if they pool their resources, they can buy in bulk, and then they can start saving Bitcoin. Isn't that incredible?
That's good. That's good.
Oh my gosh. So like they're learning on their own. It's just the power of the technology that is enabled that. And it's so fascinating, because if you look at like what I call a fiat mindset, so like fiat currency, whether it's Australian dollars or USD or whatever it is, you're going to your point about the consumer, you're encouraged to consume and to spend and to never save. And that's the mindset of most students, or most young people. And they haven't, I think it's innate in the architecture of the currencies, because they're constantly losing value, and you kind of know that subconsciously. So you're just like, well, I may as well spend it and buy some stuff before it's worthless. BTC has the opposite effect, and these kids figured that out on their own. And so it'd be so interesting to see like how we could do that I guess formally, like in a formal setting, and set it up
Yeah.
like in a school like environment, and like you said,
Yes.
so whether that's like, you know, paying them like the
Yes.
$20 boss model. I don't know if you've seen
Yes.
that. That was
Yes.
actually out of FYA as well.
Yes.
But yeah, paying students and just seeing what they do with that, and kind of standing back and not
That's
getting in
great.
the way.
That's
But
great.
but yeah, I'll let you unpack your financial literacy program. Maybe we could tweak it and see what we could do
Yep,
with PTC
that would
specifically.
be awesome. That'd be awesome. Before I enter that conversation, you reminded me of something else that we've been working on. It's called, you can look this up. It's called outbreak simulation.
Ooh,
And the person is Todd Brown. And so we had him come out and visit with us. We're trying to implement that as well. So it's a real simulation
ooh.
that he started many years ago, even before the COVID epidemic. And it has a lot of variety to it, but it teaches students about, you know, what happens when people die, what does that do to the economic value, how do governments make decisions quickly, and the students are divided up into all groups, and it's about a half-day experience. And then they have an app, and the app has a virus. And so this app goes from place to place to place. So then you become infected, or you die, or you become very sick.
Wow.
And then you're trying to find, the whole time you're trying to find the zero, patient zero. And so the students are also trying to navigate through that. So just look it up on the online.
I will.
And
That sounds amazing. So
yeah,
is that a virtual simulation, or they're doing it in person, or how does it sort of work?
you can do it yourself. Yeah, he'll
Cool.
walk you through it, but he has the app that you can download, and then he has all the course materials and things. If you need some guidance or something, let me know, and I can also share with you some things that he did. But
Absolutely. That sounds amazing.
Todd Brown, he's fantastic.
Todd Brown.
Just
Oh,
super guy. Super guy.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Very, very cool.
For
Um,
our financial literacy,
yeah.
we're trying to find people that are entrepreneurs. Last week we had a local person who does tennis shoes. In other words, he buys a variety of tennis shoes, and then he creates his own design on this tennis shoe.
Ah,
And they
cool.
sell from like 300 to 1,000 USD. And he has like 150 tennis shoes, and he's a young guy. So, you know, kids get motivated by that. And that too is like an entrepreneur moment, and he shares them, you know, some of the difficulties. So we have like a student series to go with that.
Cool.
We've been looking at another program out of Northwestern. It's a financial literacy, more or less, for that grades 8 through 12. So we use some components from that. But what bottom line is, we're trying to get students to make their own company and design it. And then we keep pushing the envelope. And I think that's what happens with us as teachers. We open the door, the child does it for maybe one time or two times, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
We keep trying to nudge and say, okay, look, here's some money for your investment. I want my money back, but you're going to have to do something. So we just said, okay. And then so this weekend they had a sale. Then Sunday, we had our students come back from the grit camp. And so they set it all up for them around 7 o'clock in the evening. So they had to come back at 7 and set it all up and serve everyone. And then we have some more events coming up. And so you got to get up a sign, and it just keeps pushing the envelope. But I think what happens, what I've learned over the years, is that we tend to open the door, and then as a teacher, I move on to something else.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, with our mentorship program, we can have students follow up, and the mentor can help be responsible.
Very cool. Very cool. So is there with that, is there like a component for digital literacy as well? So like building out, like say, their own websites and all that sort of stuff?
The answer is yes. And our students have STEAM class every day in the middle school. And so part of our program is, of course, coding and also building their own websites. What we're learning is there's just not enough time. Last week, the students, we gave them this cardboard, and so we had a rubric with it. So they had to make a house with the cardboard, and they had to have so many windows. They had to have some new innovation with it. They had to have a door. They had to be able to put 7 people inside of it. So we gave them and it was incredible what they turned out, and the creativity. And I think that's part of our, the whole design thinking does that. But I think as teachers, we just look at it as like it's too much of a process, as opposed to, like you said earlier, step back.
Mm-hmm. Get out of the way.
Step back and let it go. And if it fails, that's my new slogan with parents. F is the new A.
Yes,
F
I love that. That's awesome.
Failure is learning.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at your resume and you haven't failed, then you haven't learned. Failure is like, did you get up and go again? What did you change? Do you have that energy and perseverance? And if you just like let it fall, well, that doesn't say much for the kind of person that perhaps we're looking to hire.
Yeah, exactly. It's so important. Yeah, and self-assessment, I think that's really important
Yes.
as well. So like you're saying, like how do I iterate? How do I like build from that? Seeing failure as a good thing to build character and build off that. So you learn from it. And I think that's way more valuable than, standardized testing or sitting exams, or like you said, like writing out essays that who knows if they just copied and pasted off the internet, or it's
No.
real
Well, this
learning.
is it. This is it, Current. Right now, I mean, I'm sort of in trouble with our literature teachers.
Right.
Because I don't know if you know.
That means you're doing the right thing.
I don't know if you know. Do you know Copy AI?
Yeah.
Copy.ai. So
Yeah.
I've been teaching students, look, go in here and just type out what you want to say, and then let it generate a text for you.
Yep.
A short paragraph or 2 or 3 short paragraphs. And it's been phenomenal, particularly for students who are bilingual. They just need something to help them get started.
Bingo.
Then you go through there and you say, okay, now look at the word choice and what the AI did. You can do better than that. I don't see metaphors. I don't see figurative language or similes. I don't see sentence fluency. The way that I don't see, and so go in there and make those changes through that. And the other thing is, I think I just want to highlight too, is that we have 4 pillars. Of course, it's character, we have academics, and we have fitness and wellness, and then we have global citizenry. And for our fitness and wellness, I mean, we're trying to make sure that all of these are equal and there's not one over the other one. So last weekend we had 21 kids who went and did either they did a 10K or they did a 21K. And so that's one of our after school programs. We call it Iron Team. And,
Brilliant. Oh, that's very cool. God, so many cool programs. That's incredible. So with the students, so it's K to 12. At what stage would they be doing sort of self-directed learning? So there's the 20% time. Like when does that sort of kick in, and what are the examples of projects that they've picked?
Yeah. I would say some of we're trying to also work in hybrid, and where does that fit into our program? And so at the moment we're an AP school, which is out of the College Board, and the students take an AP class. It's called Human Geography in grade 9. And so they begin, it's asynchronous. And so they're doing it on their own at their own pace.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so we're looking at some other kind of courses, but the problem there is that parents still want that teacher interaction. And we still have a teacher there that helps the students and works with the students if there's a problem, but it's not necessarily that teacher is qualified or knows in depth about that particular subject.
Yeah, right. So what age would the kids sort of be kicking off with that sort of style of learning, like the 20% time?
Yeah, we start with the whole thing with PBL, right? Project-based learning. We start
Yep.
that in grade one, even in
Beautiful.
kindergarten. And then as they move up, this asynchronous begins in grade 9 at the moment.
Okay, cool. That's very cool. There's a group I've been working with pretty closely called Open Course. So
Oh, is
basically,
that the publisher?
no, so it's awesome. You'll dig it probably more than anyone.
Okay.
So but I was really like mind blown when Andy ran me through it. He's actually working on the Amber team, but this is one of his other projects.
Uh-huh.
Um, so cool. So think Spotify, but for education. So the idea is you can curate your own learning pathways. So say I want to make one, or you can have Michael Lambert's like learning
Huh.
pathway, and these are all the MOOCs and all the learning materials and all the resources that I think are important to learn this. And then it puts it
Uh-huh.
into a playlist, and that playlist you put up publicly,
Oh,
and from that playlist, like people can upvote it, downvote it, comment, say this really helped. So it creates this whole ecosystem of quote unquote educators, I suppose, but like more curators for education than anything
uh-huh.
else. And what I'm excited about, because I've got so much learning material specifically for Bitcoin and
Yes.
cryptocurrencies and blockchain. Um,
Yes.
and it's all disjointed. So it's kind of all over the place. Like we've got the School of Bitcoin program, we've got resources, and we're trying to put it into as concise uh,
Yes.
a thing as possible. But there's just so many avenues. So you can go down Lightning, you can go, building full nodes,
Yeah.
you can go security,
Right.
you can go, there's just so much stuff that you kind of take for granted. And I think doing it this way, like having these learning pathways or playlists built out by different people and star rated and upvoted, downvoted. I think he's looking at Lightning as well, integration. So, tipping people for creating good learning playlists for other people to go through. I can see it having a big knock-on effect for schools. I think from a young age, being able to choose like what you want, and then I think for parents as well, they can see, oh, cool, these are the metrics. There's other people that are professionals that have upvoted this. This is great. So I think for that, educating parents, which is massive, and I think you're on the right
So it's
track with
called
that.
open court.
Open course, yeah, open course,
COURT.
yeah, yeah. C O
Okay.
C O U R S E, open
Oh,
course,
course.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Okay, you got that little Australian thing going
The
on.
Aussie accent, yeah.
Okay,
But
open
yeah,
course.
super cool. But I mean, it's still in beta and they're still building. But when it
Yeah.
launches, I reckon that's going to be awesome.
Oh, that's
Um,
good.
yeah, very cool. So I'll keep you in the loop with that. But yeah. So back to your financial literacy program. So to tweak it a bit, do you
Yep.
think there's room if we set up a basic program, sort of mimicking something like $20 Boss, or a program where we actually pay students with Bitcoin? So say we have a fund, like the concept with the School Bitcoin that I really want to pursue is project-based learning. So like what project do you want to build in a
Yep.
self-directed way, but built off something called problem-based learning. So the problem that you want to solve. So
Yep.
whether
Yep.
that's community driven or whether that's a personal social problem, because it's so funny when you say problem-based learning to sort of a group of adults or a group of kids. Most kids will automatically do a social problem. Most
Mhm.
adults will go, well, I need to pay my mortgage. That's a problem. No, that's not what I mean. So I think
Yeah.
kids gonna get it off the bat. But
Yes.
do you think there might be room to run a program like that
Ab-
at True North?
The answer, my answer. Yes. Definitely,
Love it.
yes. We're definitely would open to that. And then this, adding on to that from the financial literacy, one, it's been a goal of mine is to get a student to follow through something on Kickstarter. Do you know
Oh yeah,
Kickstarter?
yeah. Absolutely,
I've always wanted a student just to take that. I think that would be such a good resume builder for application for university. But
absolutely.
I've had a couple of students start it, but they never followed it through. But
Followed it through.
This Bitcoin, absolutely yes, we'd be open to that. Absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. Because I think there's a big community of people in that network that's growing every day,
Yes,
that would
yes,
support, like, and
yes,
think it really supports that, the global citizenship as well. So
yep,
it's like, cool,
yes,
I can do stuff locally, but I can have a
yep,
whole community of people around the world supporting that.
yep,
And that's what we're seeing in countries like El
yep,
Salvador, in Central Africa,
yep,
and all these countries that are really benefiting from that, that maybe wouldn't necessarily have that ability if it wasn't for that piece of
mhm,
technology to
mhm,
fix it.
mhm,
That's cool. All right, well, we need to brainstorm that, I think,
yep,
and
yep,
make that happen, even if it's just with a small group of students. I think
yep,
a lot of people would really benefit from that.
yes,
Um,
yes.
so switching gears to the esports program, I think that's something really worth pursuing. So I don't know if you remember, but a number of years ago we ran one at my school, and we had, so we were in the esports academy, and
Mhm,
it was actually an idea of one of the kids that came up with it.
mhm.
And we did, it was mostly Rocket League. So Rocket League's a like non-violent sport, non-violent game. Because I think here's the thing with the parents. So most parents have in their head video games are shooting people, right? But they're not. They're not all
That's
that.
true.
Yeah, they
That's
do, but
true.
they have that like in there, and it's like a bad thing. There's no
That's
learning
true.
can happen from that, and
That's
it's
right. Exactly.
um. So with Rocket League, it's basically soccer, but with cars. So
Yeah.
there's nothing
Yeah.
negative, and it's just like a really fun game. But one of the kids came up with a concept that I loved, and I wish we had a sort of taken it further. Um, and it was authenticated voting. So we use the blockchain for the kids to vote, to upvote curriculum that they created, and it was around video games specifically. So they wrote up all these questions and had all these resources, and it was a really fun project. Well, the concept was an exam, but an exam not for kids. It was an exam written by the kids by consensus, so upvoted to the top, that teachers had to sit in order to be
Ah,
facilitators for the esports
uh-huh.
program. And it was
Yes.
awesome. To put it in perspective, like I failed, like I
Yeah.
didn't know half the answers to anything, but it was fun. It was really fun,
Yeah.
and like we've still got all the documentation and everything. So that would be something cool, I think, for the kids at your school to sort of pursue and
Yes.
go,
Yes.
cool, we because they're the
Yes.
experts, right?
Yes.
I think that would be worth
Yes.
doing for sure, for sure.
Here's the other thing. I mean, there's an esports organization I've been following for the past year or so, and it's out of Australia. Are you familiar with
Oh,
it?
there's a few.
Yeah, and there's a few. And then
Yeah,
this one is with schools. And so they are now opening it up to international schools here in Asia.
cool. What
So
do you know what the name is?
gosh, I'll look it up online here
Well,
real quick.
we can put it
And
in the show notes if you
I'll
can't
put it
find it.
in the sports.
That'd be
Okay.
cool to get them involved. I think that's the synergies with the BTC network in particular,
Yeah.
and gaming kind of go hand in hand. But I think there's a weird disconnect that like Twitch streamers and professional
Yes.
gamers have. Like it's a bit of a blind spot for that. So that's,
Oh,
yeah, if you
it's
can
called,
find
yeah,
them, let's reach
the
out to them.
Fuse Cup. Do you know it?
Fuse Cup. No. I'll have to
F
check it out.
U FUSE Cup. The
Oh,
Fuse.
I have heard of them. I have heard of them. Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if you can get involved with them, that sounds awesome. We should reach out actually and see if we
Yeah.
can do a podcast with them too.
Yeah.
Um, very cool. So to switch gears again, Anya,
Sure.
that sounds like you're doing some amazing stuff at the school. I think there's a lot that we could um, sort of pursue, particularly with that financial literacy component and empowering students and families through that as well.
Yes.
But a few personal questions. So, um, looking at, so I usually ask this like to people in the BTC space. Like there's a number of questions around getting off zero. So get off zero means like, owning some Bitcoin and kind of all the learning that goes along with that. So, but before
Yes.
we get into that, the first time that you sort of questioned money, do you remember when that might have been, like in your personal learning journey?
Mm. I question it. I'll tell you, one time I was sitting in listening to a senior, and he was talking about his senior project, and his senior project was built around Star Wars or Star Trek.
Oh,
Star
nice.
Trek, Star Trek. And his comment helped push my question about money. And that was, in Star Trek, there was no currency.
Mm.
There was no money exchanged of any sort in Star Trek. And I was like, what would the world be in a different, what kind of world would we have if we even, barter, we know what that looked like. But in today's world, yeah, we've, with the credit card, and, we
Yep.
used to have layaway programs, and now we don't have layaway. And in China, we used to have ATM machines. Well, you can't find an ATM machine in China today.
Right. Wow.
And so it's all digital. Even just the local person on the street, they're not going to take your cash because they have no cash. So it's become a cashless society. So what is that saying to us? Even with fintech, you can get your loans online. You don't have to go through the bank anymore. And so are we preparing students for this kind of world, this digital, as you mentioned earlier, digital citizenship? What does that look like? And so the whole concept with money, it's a great question, to help our kids wrestle with.
It is, and you're right. Like, I think a lot of schools you'll see, particularly in Australia, like the idea of financial literacy, it's not future orientated. It's
Yeah,
how do you
yeah,
count these coins? And it's like,
yeah,
what?
yeah,
The
yeah.
disconnect is like,
It's such a disconnect. Well, I mean, math is such a disconnect,
it
right?
is. Oh,
We've had algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, pre-cal, and we're stuck in the world. You don't go out and do that anymore.
yep,
You
yep,
you use the damn calculator. Let them use it. What's the big deal? And this
absolutely.
whole concept of, this is the quarter, and this is what the quarter looks like, or the dime, or the penny, or whatever. I don't know what Australians use, but for the
Yeah,
U.S.,
we used to have 1 and 2 cent pieces. They got rid of them. But you'll appreciate this. Like, years ago, when I was in primary school, and I think it was year 3 with Miss O'Shaughnessy. I
oh, you
I
still remember her
still remember
name?
her name. Yeah, yeah. I used to have one of those like calculator watches. Remember
Uh-huh.
those, like the
Oh
Casio ones?
yeah, yeah.
And I like we were doing our times tables and something else, and
Oh yeah.
I was using that, and I got into an argument with her saying like I don't need to learn this because this I
That's
have this
right.
on my wrist all the time.
That's right.
But she was like adamant, no, you have to memorize
Yeah,
these for
yeah,
some reason, and I couldn't get it. I was just like, but I
yeah,
don't need to. I'll have
yeah,
this, and she's like,
exactly.
well, someday you won't have that. I'm like, well, no, I think I was right. We all have this in our pocket.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's getting having people with that growth mindset. That's a tough one.
Yeah,
A tough
yeah,
one.
it is. Well, and I think making maths applicable as well, because like from there onwards, I kind of hated maths. So I kind of resented it until
Mhm.
it was applicable to something for me. So like
Yeah,
in high
yes,
school,
yes.
we had a really cutting edge for the time, like network
Mhm.
setup that they must have spent an absolute fortune on.
Yeah.
But for me, like I actually hacked the school network and set up a Quake server.
Oh my gosh. Don't be putting this on the air now.
It's a long time ago. It's all right. And I was never caught, so it's okay. um, but it was to set up a Quake server, and the learning that came out of it is like
Yeah,
amazing, right? So
yeah.
from doing that and having that point that server that I had about 60 kids getting connected to play this game. So it was
Mhm.
esports kind of before esports was a
Yeah,
thing, and we were kind of just
yeah,
doing it for fun, like on our own.
yeah,
But the
yeah,
math behind that is what I learned. So I learned about subnetting. So it's like, oh, right. So all these
yeah,
computers need an address, and they all
yeah.
have to have a subnet. And I was like, oh, maths has a purpose now. What is an IP address? And like, what's all the meaning behind that? How do we get these computers to connect? And being a surrogate network administrator for all these kids connecting to that, like amazing learning out of that. And I always think back and think like, if they had have sort of nurtured that,
Mhm.
like what could have happened? Like there could have been a whole
Right.
group of kids sort of pursuing that. But yeah, you're right.
Exactly.
So you have to
Exactly.
make maths like fun and applicable, like
Yep.
anything, I suppose.
Yep.
Like it has to be the way to go. Um, but yeah, so that was that was a interesting segue for your first thoughts on Star Trek and financial literacy. That's
All
cool.
right,
That's really cool.
here's one more thing we're doing. I forgot to mention. We're
Yeah.
also have an aerospace room. And
Ooh, cool.
one of the things that we're going to have on January the 7th, we're going to have what we call a space day. So what we're trying to do is open up the concept about what is space. You know, so many companies are out there. In other words, there's this whole dimension about space business. So it's trying to get students to start thinking of space maybe as a business opportunity as they look at their
Cool.
own financial literacy and entrepreneurship kind of programs. What would that be? I mean, of course, we look at Amazon and the CEO and Elon Musk and
SpaceX, yeah, yeah.
yeah, all these other companies that are starting getting into it. And so helping our students think through that kind of atmosphere, that kind of coursework.
Yeah, well, it springs to mind like with things like the Starlink program, and like that's another Elon Musk program for basically it's really important here in Australia because we've got so many rural areas without
Yep,
internet connectivity.
yep,
And with Starlink, like he's
yep,
connected a lot of people like using that
yep.
technology. And there's another program or a number of programs actually launching satellites with Bitcoin nodes. So you can actually
Oh,
run a node,
really?
yeah, in space. So
Oh,
basically,
really?
yeah, it's very cool. So that I mean that
I don't know. I don't know about that. What do you call it? Bit nodes?
no, so Bitcoin nodes, so you can run one off a Raspberry Pi. You can do that at home.
Uh-huh.
Great project for the kids to do. Actually, we did it with a
Uh-huh.
bunch of different Raspberry Pi projects at school. But yeah, there's a company or companies actually launching nodes into space, so you can have like your personal node connected like on a satellite somewhere. I forget the name of them, but I'll put them in the show notes. I'll look them up and
Yeah,
send them
put
to
them in
you
the
because
show notes. I'd love to see more about that.
yeah, very
That's
cool stuff.
another great opening of opportunity for kids to start thinking about.
Yep, exactly right. There was another program called the Outer Net as well years ago. I don't know if you remember that. There was a Kickstarter as well. Actually, I funded it, but I don't know like what happened to it. But the idea was to have essentially what Elon's done with Starlink, but like an open source version of that. So like
Mhm.
these satellites that anyone can connect to and be connected sort of around the world, and very cool. But yeah, I don't know if it don't know if they got enough funding for it to make it worthwhile. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
still very cool.
Well,
That's awesome.
if you think of anything else that we could do for our space day or just in that space business realm, send us your ideas. Would love to be able to, move and do something with that.
Absolutely. I'll have to connect you with my friend Torsten, he's a filmmaker, and
Hmm.
he just did an amazing two amazing documentaries on Bitcoin specifically, that you can
Hmm.
check out. And God, I forget the names of both of them.
Okay, that's
I'll have
okay.
to put them in the show
Yeah,
notes as well.
send them.
I
Yes.
will, I will. But he's working on a space documentary at the moment, so I think that launches in April, March or
Uh-huh.
April. So we're going to do a podcast before it launches. So I'll
Okay,
ping,
great.
I'll do an intro email as well, just so you
Okay,
guys can connect
perfect.
because he's
Perfect. Would love it.
really nice guy and really switched on and doing all wacky
Yeah,
stuff with VR and everything as well. So you'll
love it.
dig him.
Yeah, that's great.
um, so you're going back to the financial literacy and Bitcoin and getting off zero. So
Sure.
when was the first time that you heard about Bitcoin?
Mm, gosh, I'll tell you exactly when. I had a student. It was in when I was in Shanghai, and he was in eighth grade. So this was 10, 12 years ago, or yeah, 10 or 12 years ago, at least 10 or 12 years ago.
Nice.
And I was asking kids to find their passion, and we would call it, there's sort of like a TEDx presentation. And
Yeah.
so they would present on something that they were passionate about, and they would have to inform the audience. So his was on Bitcoin. I was like, Bitcoin? I've never heard of Bitcoin. And he was so he became a little more like OCD about it. He became so
That sounds like
into
a whole community. Yeah.
and his mother at the same time was like, Mr. Lambert, I'm really worried about it. And I said, well, the Bitcoin, I said, it only cost 100 USD.
Yeah.
And I said, why don't you just buy one? Just buy one coin for 100 USD. And then you can see what it does, and he gets some inside of it. Anyway, he bought one coin for USD. It finally went up to around 7 or 8,000. He sold it,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But,
awesome. What a
but it
cool story.
was that's when I learned. He helped me get inside of it. And I was like,
That's
wow, I
awesome.
didn't know anything about it till then. It was
That's
from a
so
student.
cool. That would have been around the same time I was in a school up north, St. Columba. We actually ran a program called Bit Gigs. So I was working with a group of year 10s and the e-learning coordinator. And there was this website that launched called Bit Gigs. And basically it was like gig economy sort of stuff where you could, pick something and then get paid over the internet. So whether that was like translating a document or building a website or, whatever it was. So had a group of year 10s actually getting paid in BTC like all the way back then. It was so cool. Such an empowering thing. And it was like, it was kind of easier to get across to parents and stuff because it wasn't real money at the time and not worth much. And so yeah, I've lost touch with all those students, but it'd be so cool to know like where they went with that. And kind of, are you still in touch with that student that
Yes,
awesome.
yeah. He's at University of California in Berkeley.
Oh, nice.
So he's into fintech and that kind of thing. So
Very cool.
that's been his interest, and so he's still pursuing that
Oh,
computer
good on
science.
him. That's awesome. That's so cool that you stayed in touch all these years later as well. Very, very cool. So yeah, with that, there's
I'm
something
gonna have
called.
to go here maybe in 5 minutes if that's okay.
Okay, sure. It's all right. We can maybe do another one later because I've got a bunch more questions for the students and everything as well. Particularly projects, because I think there's a lot of projects that we could probably brainstorm on to do even internationally, and I could potentially even be an international mentor if you want to a group and do it sort of virtually. I think that would be really fun. But there's a method of investing in BTC called dollar cost averaging, so DCA. And it's something that you can do with the Amber app. So it's the guys sponsoring this podcast. And basically what it means is you can do as little as $5 a month, and it automatically just puts it into a wallet for you in the back end. So you don't even have to like think about it or go into an exchange and buy it. You can kind of set and forget it. And I think in these like bear markets, it's really beneficial to be doing that. So I've actually got a code specific to True North. So I got one spun up this morning. So you can do hashtag getoffzero, or you can do True North, and I'll put the link in. And
great.
You get $10 free Bitcoin.
That's great. Good.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
So you can share it with whoever any students want to do it, or families, parents in particular, if they want to sign up. And I think they've launched in Vietnam just recently. So yeah, good timing for that.
Perfect.
So that was one. The last question I wanted to ask you, like with the students and hardware specifically. So I've had this concept for an open source school for a while now. I've actually been chatting with Peter Hutton about doing it at his school, and the only thing is his school's like the other side of Victoria, so about a 2-hour drive away. So it's kind of tough to get to. But yeah, really cool. He's got a Montessori and he's like doing some cutting edge stuff. But my concept is like an open source school where, when you go to schools at the moment, so you'll see it's either like a Mac school, Windows school, Chromebook school, like whatever it is. There's no Linux schools. And that's So I've always tried to be like platform
Mm.
agnostic.
Right.
We try to cater for everything, but realistically, all we need is a browser to be able to do that. And the
Mhm.
licensing fees for Google, Microsoft, and
Mhm.
macOS are exorbitant.
Yeah.
So my concept is basically, all right, well, why don't we get a bunch of, partner with a business or maybe even a university that's getting rid of a bunch of devices, buy them secondhand, and let the kids, the tech experts or tech ninjas, actually
Mhm.
run like a help desk,
Yeah.
and let the kids choose from. There's like hundreds of different Linux distributions, and the
Right.
learning that goes along with that, particularly in light of, like, I don't know if you've been abreast of all the cybersecurity like
Oh
mishaps
yeah.
that have happened in
Yes.
Australia. Just
Yeah.
like the Optus hack, Medicare, it's off the charts
It's everywhere.
because nobody's taught like cybersecurity from a young age. It's just kind of
Mhm.
overlooked, and no
Yep.
one has that. So my
Yep.
thinking is, if we could do a Linux school and even just start with like a small classroom,
Yep.
and then kind of build out from there. So you have the kids running it,
Yep.
that would solve a lot of that from the
Yep.
ground up. But I don't know. Have you ever thought about something like that, or is that something that you think would be
Well, the
worth
answer is
pursuing?
yeah. The answer is yes. Would love it. Love it. We're open to a lot of things. I mean, one of the things that we're working with now is I'm working with two kids, and they're learning to how to use Mid-Journey, the
What's that?
AI. That's the
Oh,
AI for art.
oh,
In other
yes, yes, yes.
Yes, so
Awesome.
it's taking text to art, and now we're able to go from text to video. Uh,
Yes,
so those
beautiful.
are some components, but I would love to, stay in this realm of Linux,
Yeah.
and see what we can do with that. We have some kids who are very much into trying to build their own kind of programs. In fact, as a school, we're trying to build our own LMS program.
Oh,
And
nice. Oh,
yeah.
wow. Oh, geez, we need to dive into that as well. Have you got time to run us through that? Or is it... are you
It's
students developing that, or you
the
working with?
students will give input, and then the
Yes.
developers do, make all the changes. But what we've said about the LMS, no offense, but it needs to be, it needs to have a sex appeal to it. And
Has to
that's
be fun. Yep.
yeah, but
Yep.
it does, that cool effect. And
Hmm.
it's too schoolish.
Yep.
And
Yep.
where's your avatars that has some movement to it, particularly like Telegram. Telegram, I
Yeah.
don't know if you
Yeah.
use that messaging app, but their first hello has got that, odd avatar. And
Hmm.
that's a real attractive component. So we're having to learn how to up our game, because I keep saying to teachers, we're no longer teaching. We are what I call infotainers.
Love it. Love it.
We give out information, but we also have to do it in an entertaining kind of way.
That's right.
So,
Exactly.
so our
Particularly now with
role is,
mediums like this.
yeah, we have to change our game, because
That's right.
it's called the attention economy, and we're fighting for attention as well. And we can't just
Absolutely.
say, put your pencils down or put your laptops down and look up here. It just ineffective. We're broadcasting, and we're no longer in the broadcasting world.
Yeah. Well, and the other factor with that is, like, there's a lot of teachers, a lot of schools that have like a no phone policy, where they don't see the phone as a learning tool. Right.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
disconnect with that. It's amazing to see. It's like, oh, it's a
yeah,
distraction device. It's like,
yeah,
no, it's the engagement tool
yeah,
that you can do all these
yeah.
cool things with. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we need to
infuriating.
help teachers, like, well, look at your assignment. Maybe it's your assignment that needs some shift.
That's right.
So,
Exactly
yeah.
right. Last question, if you've got
Yep.
time. GitHub. Are you guys? Because I know you're doing Steam from top to bottom. Are you guys doing anything with GitHub at the moment?
No, the
Ah,
answer is no. Yeah, sorry
that
about that.
that because I think that's something, and most
Yeah,
schools are not. Most schools are not at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
Um, and
That's
I think
good. That's a
that's
good push.
well, it's a skill that I think if you get it
Agree.
early enough to
Yeah,
utilize, you can get
yeah,
a job anywhere. Right? It's like,
yeah. That's
why
right. It's
why
good.
am I
That's
not
a
doing
good push. That's a good push.
it?
Okay. You're giving me
Well,
something to do now. More
that's
things to
right.
do.
Yeah, giving you too much work to do. Oh, well, thank you so much, Michael. This has
Oh,
been
thank you. It's a great
fantastic.
conversation. And I'm still trying to get you to come to Hanoi now.
I
All
definitely
right.
have to come for a visit at least because it's
All
yeah,
right.
I need to see the school in person. It
Okay.
sounds amazing. But what's the best place for everyone to reach out to you and connect with and your yeah, what are you on?
Yeah, I would just say use my email address that you have. That
Yep.
works. Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, and the school URL, so True North School as a
Yep.
what are we .edu.vn if you want to check
Yeah.
out the school.
There's no www.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Just straight in.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much, Michael. We'll have
All right.
to do a follow up, I think,
Yeah,
and work
okay.
through some programs for you.
All right. And I look forward to those resources that you mentioned about the space. Would love to
Yes.
see that and a couple other things that you mentioned.
Awesome. Awesome. All
Okay.
right. We'll talk soon,
Thank
buddy.
you. All
Cheers,
right.
mate.
Cheers. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye bye.